As I mentioned, I have one more project. This is a quick tutorial that I want to share today, and it's in honor of my mother Aleene's creativity. It was, gosh, maybe 50, 60 years ago that my mother Aleene was testing Aleene's tacky glue for flammability, and in the process discovered a really neat technique that's been used in many different ways over the years. Most recently, we have brought it back in its traditional form of burning brown bag, and Candace J, our creative play muse, has shown how you can use it in book binding and in paper folding. So I thought, well, can I use this on cool to cast and create an interesting effect on my jewelry? Here's what I discovered. This is a quick tutorial to show you how to do the Aleene's burnt brown bag technique, but I'm not using brown bag. Instead, I'm using cool to cast. So this is a pre-poured piece of cool to cast that I have glued a ring finding onto the back. That's going to give me something to hold on to while I'm actually doing the burning technique. Let that glue dry completely. Then the next step that you're going to want to do is paint. I just use black acrylic paint on the back. This is going to finish off the back of your ring. You always want to be sure and do that. And also is going to give you a nice edge where the burning of the glue technique meets the back. So paint your piece black and set that aside to let it dry completely. You don't need to cover the whole ring, just the back and the sides. Once that acrylic paint has dried completely, then it's time, let me find one that I haven't finished here, there we go, then it's time to start the burning technique. So as I mentioned, I have glued the ring back onto my cool to cast jewelry shape, and I painted the outside, and now it's time to start this technique. So I just squeeze some of the Aleene's glue right out of the bottle and spread it with my finger onto the top and the sides of the ring. And you can see it's a generous coat, but not too thick, because if it's too thick you'll find that it will start dripping and oozing. So spread that around with your finger. And I'm sure you can devise a very clever way to put this down while you light your candle. What I do is I just actually put it onto my finger. So you may get some glue on your finger. So you can actually purchase plumber's candles at the hardware store, but this is just a little meditation candle that I have that I use, because you can see it has a really nice tall flame to it. And what you do is you just put that piece that has the wet glue right over your candle and keep it moving. So you can see where I'm burning, it's starting to make it black and sooty. Also, when you apply your candle flame, you may notice that the glue bubbles, and that's good because we want lots of texture. So what this does is it actually seals that glue on the outside. And I put a paper towel down on my work surface because that candle is going to drip. Try not to put your wick into your glue. If you do, you may get a little flare up. Keep it moving. I want to see if I can get an angle for you where you can see it actually bubble up. There you go. And then it lays back down. That's what gives it that great texture. Any place that's white, you want to keep burning it so it's nice and black and sooty. when it cracks, like you see right here, sometimes again you may get a little flare up when you are putting it back into that flame. So not to worry, just keep moving it around. If you keep it in one spot, it'll definitely start to sizzle, and you don't want it to sizzle. Let me get my flame up a little bit bigger again. There's a big bubble. The glue starts to get almost a leathery effect to it, and that's good. You can see this piece is getting some really nice texture to it. I want it sooty black though. Isn't that cool? So on this particular piece I'm getting a really nice bubble, and then it starts to flatten back down. If it appears shiny, it means that you haven't heated it up enough in that spot. You want this to be a very matte black sooty finish. So you blow out your candle and you let this sit for just a moment. And I'm going to take the back side of my paper towel, the side that has no wax on it, and just start to gently dab away some of that soot. And you can see the texture that's left behind. What I like to do when it cools down just a bit, cool enough that I can put my finger in it, is I can actually push more texture into that. If any part of this looks like it needs to be continued to be burned, you just light your candle back up and go back and burn any spots. When it slightly cools, you can use your paper towel to wipe away the soot, and then just use your fingers if you want to add more texture. So we're going to set this aside and let that glue dry completely. Our next step is to come in and antique our finish. And you can see I've done about half of this ring, and I'm using Lumiere paint. You can use Rub and Buff, you can use acrylic paint, but I'm just dipping my finger right into the Lumiere. And you have a gentle touch and rub it on the top, and that's going to antique the ridges that you created in your burned glue. And you don't want to overdo it because you do want some of that black to still show through. Super cool. So you can get an idea of what this is going to look like. Set this aside and let it dry completely. Let's try another one here. This is also Lumiere paint, so it has that beautiful, really microfine glitter in it. And this is a blue-green. This starts to give this piece the effect of fired glass. I like that. Set these aside to dry completely. These rings are really quite pretty, just the way that they are right now. There is one final step that you can do if you would like, which is to add your 3D lacquer. This is going to give you a thick coat over the top and definitely give this more of a glass-like finish. What I do is I apply the coat to the top, let it dry completely, and then come back and just run my finger over the sides with a coat of the 3D, and then that way it doesn't seep down over the side. So just coat the top first, let it dry completely, and then you come back and you just run your fingers on the side with some of your 3D, and it creates a beautiful glass-like finish. What I do is I just put these into the corner of a box and balance them here. See if I can get this one placed right. There we go. Just let that dry completely overnight undisturbed. Then you come back and you add a coat of that on the sides. And there you have your burned glue rings.